Hi, this is John with Fix It Planet. Today we got a Samsung J7. It's the J700T, T for T-Mobile. Just pointing out what we've got around the edges here. Back comes off real easy. Not a problem, but the rest of the phone is pretty pathetic. So, at least the battery is easily taken out. We're going to go ahead and remove the SIM card, although it's not really required for this repair. And I'm having a little trouble with this. It won't focus for me for some reason, but you can see the model number there, hopefully well enough. But I was really frustrated. This particular shot I couldn't get to focus. Normally it's pretty sharp, but in any case, SM-J700T. We're going to go ahead and take out all the screws. And this repair is from start to finish. So there may be a few places in here that are boring. I really do not like this phone. You know, there's a lot of things I could complain about with the way Samsung has been making their phones, but for such a cheap phone, this is not an expensive phone. Maybe $200 max retail. In any case, I've already heated it up on a heat plate, hot plate, whatever, and I'm just gonna go around the edges and break the seal, because you can't get to anything until you've broken the seal on the display. Isn't that just lovely? And so there's a lot of things that could go wrong when you're trying to take this, get it open, because you can't get the mid frame out until you've gotten room. There's a flex cable right there that just goes right through the frame. That's the mid frame right there. Down at the bottom, you've also got these buttons here on the right and on the left. Those can easily be snagged when you're removing the glass, so you need to be very careful around those. And it happens to also be part of the home button assembly. So if you damage any of that, you're going to have to replace that entire assembly. Now, as we're looking at it now, I'm just going to lean the glass up here and point out around the edges here where the mid frame sits down inside the rear cover, and it's down in there really tight, and it can be difficult to get out. You can push a little bit on the back of it, but you can't get the whole thing out just by pressing against the back of it. You can use it to help assist you around the edges and the sides, but at the top and bottom you still have to pry it out with a metal tool or something. So I'm pressing a little on the back, and while doing this, I'm going to point out how easy that flex cable for the display tears like a piece of paper. So you do have to use a little persuasion around the edges. You can see these little notches here that stick out, and they fit underneath the outer frame. And then up here at the top, again, you've got to be real careful where you put this tool, because there is a motherboard behind there. So you don't want to stick it in very far. You just want to get it in a little bit so that you can pry that mid frame up. Very frustrating design. And you can see we've already torn the flex cable for the digitizer, or for the display. Bingo. So the display wasn't working anyway, but that's not the point. You really should be able to get that out without having to destroy the display in the process. What if I just want to change out the charging port, So it's a very frustrating design. I think it's done that way deliberately. Samsung goes out of their way to make things difficult, and so that repairs, are complicated. Now, right across here is where that flex cable tears. It just happens to be that it's right there in that little corner, and it's just easy to tear. So we're going to go around the edges of the frame, this mid frame here, and just get any stuff off, adhesive, whatnot. And on the inside of the outer frame, we've got more adhesive that we want to get off, so we're going to have to clean all that out. Yeah, little ball there. We're going to go around the edges and we're going to clean all this off. Lots of fun. And we're going to replace it with some fresh adhesive. Although this adhesive needs to be relatively thick. Some of these screens will come with adhesive already on them. Some don't. This one just doesn't happen to have it on there. But even if it does come with the adhesive, you do need to clean these surfaces really well so that you'll get a good bond whenever you put the new one in place. So you might as well just resign yourself to the fact that you're going to have to clean all this mess up. If you don't do it, then the screen's just going to pop loose. It's going to come show gaps. It's not going to be nice when you're done. So we're going to go around the edge now and clean it with some alcohol and get the last of the residue off. And so the app that I'm using to do this editing with has really been bugging out. So this may be the last video that I can do using this app. There won't be any sort of ambient background music on this one because it's just not available. I could import my own, but I really don't want to take the time to do that. Now, the power button is on the inside there has a couple of little plastic pieces that kind of hold them in place. There's the volume up and down, and on this particular phone, that piece of one side is actually broken off, so we're going to have to keep our eye on that throughout the repair. Right there, that little side right there doesn't want to stay flush against the side, and I got a little piece of plastic I need to get out of there. No good. More cheap garbage. And then we'll take the alcohol and we'll clean the residue off of the mid frame here as much as whatever's left in the areas where we're going to want to apply a little bit of adhesive. Now, these screens, Samsung tends to put adhesive on the back of their screens, so they're going to stick down all the way across the mid frame. We're going to make sure we get all this extra stuff around the edges, make sure there's nothing left behind. Be careful of the rear or the front facing camera right there, that you don't put your fingerprint on it or get some kind of residue on it. So be mindful of that when you're handling the phone. And what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and plug this thing in. This is our new screen. We're going to go ahead and plug it in and test it, because we really don't want to have to take this apart if for some reason the screen has something wrong with it. So I went ahead and just left all this in the video. I don't know, it runs about 20-25 minutes, something like that, 24 minutes, whatever. So there's a lot of little places in the video that are probably boring, but I just wanted to really illustrate how ridiculous the design is on this phone, and the crap that you have to go through just to make sure that once you put this thing in place that everything's a-okay. So I'm pushing on the button, little home button underneath there. That's bring the screen back up. Checking the brightness control, make sure the screen is going to full brightness. Checking the digitizer, make sure the touch function is working properly. And we'll touch these buttons on the underside at this point, make sure they're working. We haven't done any damage to those. We've got cellular service, so we're going to go ahead and pull up Spotify here, check the brightness again. Check our buttons underneath. So once I'm fairly satisfied that everything is fully functional and that we don't have any problems with the screen, then we're going to go ahead and power it down and get it ready to put on. So I haven't uploaded a video in a little while. It's the first one in several weeks because we've been just too busy to stop and do one. But I haven't done a J7 video yet, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to put this J7 repair video guide up on our YouTube channel and show just what a horrendous piece of garbage it is. So I'm going to go around the edges now and apply some fresh adhesive on the outer frame. Just very thin strips. These are 2 millimeter wide, 3M, super heavy duty, very sticky stuff. Going to apply a little pressure to make sure we get a good bond and cut off the excess. So again, this is not real exciting, but it is necessary. Suppose if you were doing it for yourself and you really don't care, you don't have to go through all this. But if you're doing it for a customer, yeah, you might want to go ahead and take the time to put these strips on. So I'm really disappointed because the app I was using for doing this editing was just on my phone, and I do plan to eventually get some good editing software for the computer, get a dedicated computer and a nice microscope camera, and see if I can at least get 2 cameras going and really improve the range of the type of videos that I can do. Right now I'm kind of stuck with these over the top of the bench style, just sort of repair guides, watch me as I do it kind of thing. I have made them as all-inclusive as possible. For the most part, generally speaking, I don't leave a whole lot out. There may be some videos where I may skip a few things here and there, and just to kind of speed up the process on the video. But in this particular video, there's not a whole lot that's left out. So a lot of this is boring, but it is necessary. So I don't always show the process of putting the adhesive on itself. And there's that home or power button again, as you can see, trying to move out of place. So we're going to put it back where it belongs, since the cheap plastic is not holding it anymore. And you can just see the little plastic home button up there in the top of the frame there. That's actually kind of cheesy too, I think. But if you don't get the angle just right, if it's if your adhesive's not thick enough, if you don't get it just right down at the bottom, then it won't work properly. It will get pressed down too far down, and there won't be any movement up and down when you push the button. So you do need to put a few layers of this on, or get some thick stuff. Now we're just putting the adhesive in just a few areas where there's not going to be any otherwise if we don't put it there. So that it doesn't have to cover every square inch of it. It just needs to be in certain areas. Obviously we don't want to cover up the camera, things of that nature. So down here at the bottom, I didn't quite get this clean enough, and I want to put a small strip at the bottom here. So just cleaning that off, getting it ready so the new adhesive will stick. So we do want that to be fairly thick at the bottom. It doesn't have to be super thick, it just needs to be enough to allow room for the button to go up and down. So the button itself is basically just going to sit right down in here like this, but it doesn't just stay put. So it can move around on you and flop out, get out of position and things like that. So you want to put it in the last right before you're ready to put the screen on, and make sure it's lined up perfectly before you put the screen down all the way. There's also the speaker grill at the top, and you'll be able to use that to help center the screen, line it up, because we obviously have no real edges to go by here. So you're basically going to use the speaker grill and the home button to help center the screen. Now this masking is actually covering over adhesive. The copper looking stuff there is very sticky, so we're going to stick the Flux cable back down on it, and then we're going to run that cable connector through the little slot. And then before we stick it down, we're going to line it up with the connector on the board, get it plugged in, make sure it's there where it belongs. Then we'll line up the speaker grill and the home button in that order. Once we've kind of got all that lined up, then we can move on to the outer frame. So I think I was saying earlier I was going to get a new microscope camera. I'm going to get a new computer dedicated for video editing. I'm going to get new video editing software. I'm going to probably get a couple of cameras going at the same time and see if I can't, do some different kinds of videos. So I was really disappointed, that the editing software that I'm using on my phone right now is bugging out big time. So I don't know how many more of these videos I'll be able to do using that application anyway on my phone. It was okay. It was designed for GoPro. Splice by GoPro. And just recently, like I said, I hadn't done any videos in a few weeks. And it'd been, it was kind of buggy anyway. It crashed quite a bit, actually. But, kind of got the job done, and allow you to put a little bit of music in the background or whatever, and throw on a separate voiceover track, and do a little bit of editing with the video. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but at least it got the job done, kind of straightforward. So then after a few weeks, I thought, I'll do this J7. And then I open up the app and it's just like total garbage now. I don't know what they did to it or didn't do to it, but it was updated back in March. So, I don't know. It worked fine the last time I used it, and I checked it with I have another phone too. Two phones, the 6S Plus and the 7 Plus iPhones, and the app was bugging out on both of them. So I don't know what happened. Can't add music anymore, can't do any of that kind of junk. So even though that's not really that big a deal, but it was still doing some other things too that was kind of weird. So I'm hoping just to get this video done and then see what else I can figure out. So anyway, everything tested out pretty good the first time around, and then once we got everything installed, everything seems to be functioning good. We'll check the proximity sensor here real quick. That's working fine. So the customer should be happy with this repair, and I really appreciate you guys, watching, like, and subscribe. I do plan to do plenty of more videos in the future, so stick around. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you watching. Bye-bye now.